Hi, I'm Hui Wen from Staying Sane 101, and this is Nahum, my co-practitioner.
Good afternoon.
Today we are talking about choosing to respond rather than reacting to a comment or a remark or what people do, what people say. I think that's one of the common things that people come to us to seek help with, right? What's your take on this?
Yeah, and I think the most common form of this is where people come dealing with an anger problem or
Right.
want help with an anger problem. And it's really about, so they're having a conversation with somebody and they won't like what the other person says for one reason or another. And their main response to that will be one of anger. The anger will rise up. It could be a flash of anger. Typically that anger, or it could be another emotion, but anger's just a common one.
Yeah.
It's a flash. It doesn't build slowly as such. And then that emotion hijacks the conversation and hijacks the communication because they just get angry about what the other person has said.
Yeah.
And do they really have to do that?
I am not sure whether they even know what makes them angry. So they're just reacting without fully processing why they're responding that way, right? Why they are expressing themselves in anger. They don't even know why.
I think that's right. If you think of any of our thoughts or any of our emotions, we often don't really know where they come from. So, we attach a story to it afterwards. I felt angry because this or this or this happened. But actually, in the moment, the anger just comes out of wherever, or any other emotion, or even any other thought, right? Just imagine that you're thinking, oh, I'd really like cheesecake today. Where did that thought come from?
Like cravings, right?
They just kind of come out of nowhere. So sometimes they don't even know where this anger or this emotion is coming from.
Yeah.
But it takes over the conversation. It destroys the communication.
Yeah.
Can we control it? How do we control it?
When clients come to me complaining about not able to control the way he or she reacts, I will talk about, okay, then how do you want to regain control about how you want to react, right? So you were talking to me earlier about receiving, the notion of just receiving. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so receiving a concept that I often use with clients, but I don't take the concept from psychology. I take it from my martial art. And what I imagine is, well, in a martial arts context, I imagine that somebody is punching me, and I have a choice how I'm going to respond to that punch. Now, we can substitute that punch, which is a physical thing, for the anger or the emotion that's rising. The emotion is coming at you, the punch is coming at you. Now, you could get in there and fight back to the person who's punching you, and then you're fighting fire with fire.
Right.
We know that's really not a good way to fight fire.
Yeah.
Or we kind of dodge, try to avoid it.
Yeah.
We also know that withdrawing and avoiding isn't a very good response.
No.
But what we can also do, which in a martial art we call receiving, which is just kind of, not so much avoid, but just sort of step out of the way for a moment and let that punch go wherever that punch is going to go, because not everything warrants a response. You can all think of relationships, or not relationships, you can all think of situations, rather, in your life where you think, I wish I'd not got involved in that. And and that's like you responded to something that really didn't warrant a response.
Right.
So you just let that punch go past, and then you're going to say, does that warrant a response or not?
Yeah, so it's
and then you choose to respond.
Yeah.
And the key thing here is, well, when you respond, it's a response instead of a reaction. One is considered. The response is considered. Reaction is like autonomous. That's how I see the difference.
Okay, that's a very good way to put it, because some of my clients would say, after the episode, they would say things like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, I shouldn't have responded that way. Oh, I shouldn't have said. So like you said, it's when we respond to something, it's a considered action, almost in the mind. But when we react to something, it's autonomous. It's almost not requires a lot of thinking, not being aware or mindful enough to know what we are saying in the moment.
I think the response, or the anger rises, somebody says something and you respond, it might be an automatic response, but it's often not really a very authentic response. It's often like just a patterned response. It's almost like learned behavior. Somebody says this, you fly off the handle.
Right.
I mean, you see it in couples all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, it's become pattern behavior. They don't really feel anger, or they don't
So,
really know what the anger is about.
okay.
And by sitting back and thinking, does it warrant a response, just forces you to reflect a little bit on what it is you're really feeling and why it is you're feeling it.
Yeah. So by the act of just taking a back sit and just think about why do I need to say that? Why am I feeling this way? Help us to regain control over ourselves, right? Just by being aware of mindful, just slow things a little bit down so that we regain control of what our mind is doing, or the mind, what kind of story the mind is creating in our minds, right?
And I like two parts of what you've said there. I like the way you've linked it to control, which you did earlier as well. So when these emotions take us over and we just respond with this flash of anger,
Yeah.
and we really have lost control in that moment. The emotion is then controlling us.
Yeah.
And we need to regain control, not just to have a productive conversation, but just to feel okay as a human being. We don't feel well when we're out of control.
Yes.
We like to have a sense of control.
Yeah.
And the second part that I thought was really good, and you talked about just slowing down.
Yeah.
And it's like when I said earlier, not everything warrants a response. Perhaps you develop that in a sense. Not everything develops a response or warrants a response now.
Not now.
Right.
Right.
So you just slow down and say, okay, what do I need to do? When do I need to do it? And just slowing it down almost by definition turns the heat of the discussion or the heat of the conflict down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I experienced a very similar conversation or discussion with some of my clients who experience anxiety. So they feel a lot of things going on here, and they feel almost frozen because they feel I'm not in control. I feel really overwhelmed that I'm not in control. So, and when they feel so overwhelmed, they start breathing quicker, they start talking faster. So my common suggestion for them would be to try to speak slower. Just speak slower and listen to what you're saying, so that by listening to what you're saying, you're regaining control of what you're thinking and what you're saying. And you don't regret after that for saying something awful.
Yeah, I mean, slowing down is a good tool to calm yourself, but it's also a very good tool to calm the situation and the person you're talking to.
Right. Yeah.
If you've ever worked as a bouncer or a security person and you get into conflict with someone and you want to talk that conflict down rather than have to fight your way out of it, first thing you do is you'll start speaking in a more monotone voice, and you will start talking more slowly. And just by lowering the tone of it, you lower the stakes.
Nice. Yeah.
And
Very good way to put it.
that's and lots of people dealing with conflict use this method. Police are actually trained to do this when they talk to people.
Yeah.
I think we've mentioned before you've actually worked on a suicide hotline
Yes.
before. Did you use a similar
Yes.
kind of approach
Yes.
there?
Yeah. Well, you remember that. So when we receive such calls, and it is really about the person jumping down or not. So my job then was to buy time for help to come, and also to calm the person down. If I start speaking fast and anxiously, it would make the person even more anxious, and I might hasten the whole process. So my job is to slow down and speak slower and try to get him or her to calm down and try to work things out slowly, and generally just buying time.
Right. So
Yeah.
what's really interesting about that is by just slowing down and choosing to respond rather than react, we not only regain control of ourselves,
Yeah.
but we also calm the person we're talking to down as well. And then we can stop that positive feedback loop. A positive feedback loop is when our behavior reinforces itself. So it doesn't mean positive in the sense of good. It means positive as in self-reinforcing. So it's like, I yell at you,
I'll
you
yell back.
You yell
Yeah.
louder, I yell louder.
Louder.
And then we start yelling louder at each other, and we start saying worse and worse things to each other that are harder to take back
Yeah.
later because we've escalated it.
Yeah, this is so common in couples, right? Among couples. Yeah.
Whereas, so it's amazing. By controlling the only thing you can control here, which is your own reaction,
Yeah.
you actually start to not just get control of yourself, but start to get if not control, at least some influence over the wider situation
Yeah.
and the environment around you.
Yeah. So by regaining the control, we don't start that dominoes effect.
Mm.
Right.
One problem though.
Yeah.
How do we do it? So how do we? This is a skill, right?
Yes.
How do we learn this skill?
By wanting to stop that. Sometimes we get sucked into wanting to react as a form of defense. I feel defenseless, therefore I need to react. I need to do something about it. So I need to want to stop myself from reacting and more responding. More, nope. Pull the rein and pull rein in. Nope. Gotta learn how to respond. Okay, is that the person I want? Is that the person I want myself to be? No. Okay. How do I behave myself? How do I convey myself to people so that I become the person I want to be?
Mm. So a couple of things there. One is you said that you have to learn it.
Yeah.
And that's
You gotta want it. You gotta want it.
sorry, you want to learn were the 2 points you said that I wanted to pick up on. So want it's a really important one. Is
Yes.
None of us are going to change in any areas of our life unless we want it.
Yes.
And unless we reach until we reach the point that we can see that going on the way we are is not as good as the results we're going to get from changing.
Yeah.
And the other point is learning it is you're still going to have times where the emotion rises
Yeah.
up and you blow it.
Yeah,
And
we blow it.
you
Yes.
just have to say, look, this is a skill. I didn't do it very well this time, but the great news is in half an hour, you're going to get another shot at it. I guarantee you.
Yeah, it's going to keep coming at you.
So you can you're going to develop this skill slowly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a skill like anything else, but it's an important one and it's a good topic because they don't teach you this in school, right? They teach you algebra, but they don't teach you how not to have an argument with someone over something silly just because your emotions have run away.
Yeah, I really hope that people are getting more aware of this and they start to see how it's a very important skill in life. Yeah.
I think people are becoming more aware of it. I mean, we've seen like ideas of mindfulness have come into the common discourse now.
Yeah.
That original kind of mindfulness thinking, really, a lot of it comes from Buddhism, actually.
Yeah.
But it's now mainstream.
Yeah,
It's almost
mainstream.
everywhere. It's in management courses and leadership courses. And
Yeah.
It's taught in universities. It's taught in self-help courses. So I think it is.
Good. People are getting more aware of it and applying it. That's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so there should be no more conflict from here on. Done.
I
Solved.
hope so. If only it's that so easy. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.